All right, so welcome everyone to the Vancouver Power BI and Modern Excel User Group Meetup for the March edition of our Excel track, and super excited to have Bill with us. Actually, Bill, I cannot believe that I haven't actually had you at our user group yet. This is kind of a weird thing that I'm glad we're actually fixing at this point. So,
that's great, yeah.
All right, so let's do the quick welcome. We're going to throw out a thanks to our sponsors. SkillWave, my training company, is the primary sponsor of the VanPUG group here. So if you're looking for great training on working with Excel and Power BI, Power Query, Power Pivot, all that kind of good stuff, you definitely want to check out our courses at skillwave.training and get on our newsletter list, because that's when we let you know about all kinds of awesome specials and things like that we have. Also, Excel Guru, of course, is my parent company that I run. So, we're on the list, as well as our little tool called Monkey Tools, which can help you build better models faster in Excel and also audit some Power BI stuff as well. Our next meetups that we have coming up, I'm really excited to be having my friend Christian Angel going to be coming, and he is going to be presenting. Just note that our next two meetups will be starting at 1 o'clock Pacific time, and we're moving to Pacific Daylight Time because we've got a time change that comes in before that. Christian is going to be talking about one of my favorite topics about using self-joins in Power Query. This is really cool stuff that makes you wonder what the heck is going on until you see it, and then it's just magic. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And then next up, we've got Mark Proctor is going to be joining us and talking about why VBA macros are still alive and kicking out there, why maybe Power Automate and the new Excel scripts can't quite get you over the finish line. So looking forward to both of those presentations coming up. Just, big note to remember, they will be streaming live at 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, because both of our speakers are coming from Europe, so we want to make sure that they're able to stay awake through the presentation too. Of course, as always, these things will be recorded and shared on YouTube later. I also want to let everybody know that we've just kicked off the registration for the next semester of my self-service BI bootcamp, where we talk all about Excel and Power BI. If you are interested in some fantastic training, the next semester kicks off on April 19th, but you can save $200 on the price if you register before March 28th. I will share the links on this thing right as Bill starts talking. I'll pop those into the chat. They're also in the slide deck that is available for download as well. I hope to see some people here. This is a fantastic program that we're really proud of that has helped a lot of folks so far. So definitely, if you want to really master your business intelligence game, you should check this out. I've mentioned over the last couple of meetings, the new home for the VanPUG Meetup recordings is on YouTube at our SkillWave channel, and I will drop this link into the chat so you can subscribe to that as well. We've got all of the meetups from January this year, and on a go-forward basis will be hosted at SkillWave. As well as, there we go, we need this guy here too, my new series of videos, Monkey Shorts, that we've got going on. Bill, you haven't seen this before, you're laughing.
That is awesome. That is the greatest, that monkey belongs in Florida. That's the Florida outfit right there.
It kind of does, doesn't he? Yeah. So, so these videos, if you haven't actually checked these out, these are short videos that are targeted at a specific topic. They're less than 3 minutes of technical content. There's about an extra 20 seconds of wrappers that go around these things, to ask you to subscribe and all that kind of stuff. But less than 3 minutes for every video. I believe we've got about 8 of them up there so far. They are coming out every Thursday morning with a brand new one that I've got in the pipe ready to go. So if you're looking for short bites on some cool techniques and stuff, you should definitely check that out. Last thing I want to throw before we actually turn this over to Bill is we are always looking for new speakers for the user group, whether you'd like to talk about Excel or Power BI or Power Automate or anything that touches on those technologies. We would love to have you here. We love new speakers on our platform. Please fill out the survey and come join us, and we'd love to hear what you have and see what you can show us. And on that note, I think
joining that team.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and figure out where my controls are to start muting some people. But Bill, I'm going to fade to black here and turn it to you so that you can share your screen and we can get this all started.
All right. This is great. Well, I'm really excited, Ken, to be here finally, speaking to your group. And you know what? The amazing thing with this whole thing is normally a group in Vancouver, I would never be able to come present. I'd never be able to come watch. But it's just amazing now, post-pandemic, that something amazing in Saudi Arabia or in Vancouver, and we can all, be here together. So
I feel like I've lost your audio, Bill.
Uh-oh, that's bad.
No,
okay.
I can hear him.
Oh, okay, cool, good. I'm glad you can hear him. All right, I hear you now. Keep going.
Okay, all right, great. That's good. Okay, so today the topic is Excel oddities and from the road, Excel oddities from the road. I was on the road for 17 years doing my Excel seminars, about 35 dates a year. And I love doing those Excel seminars. It was one of my favorite things to do. And I would start out every day, would start at 8:30 and I'd say, hey, look, this is what we're going to cover. And I do not have I'm not the only one who's going to teach things today. As you see me going through these seminars, if you have a trick that's better, faster, easier, cooler than what I have, don't be afraid to show me up, right? And I make a prediction. I look around the room and I say, I can tell the person who's going to show me up first walked into this room and sat in row 2, right? I don't know why it is, but those smart people, they don't want to sit in row 1 where it'd be, just kind of obnoxious, but they're in row 2. And I look at them. I look at all the people in row 2. I say, which one of you it'll be? And some of you are like, oh, no, not me. I just can't see, right? And I offer a prize. I offered a prize, and it started out as this little lapel pin, Excel Master. Ask me your Excel questions. Probably cost me 50 cents. I'd buy 100 or 200 at a time. And then later, once I moved here to Florida and became part of the space photographer thing, I had the guy who designed the mission patches for NASA create this nice little mission patch. And that was more expensive, probably $1.50 or something like that. But it was fun because, when someone showed me up with a trick, I'd write it down, I'd get their first name, walk back and hand them their prize. So it cost me 50 cents for each one of these tricks, but I kept them. I kept them. And my very first book back in 2004 had 277 Excel tips, or 277 Excel mysteries solved. And you can see as that book was updated over the years, it went from 277 to 377 to 512 to 567 to 617 to 657. I'm paying 50 cents for a trick, but I take those tricks, right? And they end up in the book, they end up on the YouTube channel. It's kind of a racket, isn't it, right? They're paying me to be there. I give them a 50-cent prize, and I picked up these awesome tricks. And some of the tricks I'm going to show you today, almost all the tricks I'm going to show you today are tricks that we got from the road. I usually manage to figure out who the person was. And so I'm going to tell you who they were, where they were from. I don't have photos of any of these people. That was just bad on my part. But they were just cool tricks that someone had discovered. And I always say, there's 750 million people using Excel. Someone's going to accidentally discover something weird, right? And if I happen to run into that person and they give that tip to me, then I get to take it on to all of the future seminars, right? So now this is an 8-hour day. And of course, we don't have 8 hours here today. So you're going to miss a lot of the build up to these tricks. But I was talking about, how to take data in column A and join it with the column B. And we worked through getting this formula. And then I need to copy that formula down, right? And I always show the fast way that the people with keyboard shortcuts will do, coming down here to the bottom and using Control D to fill down. But I say what I really hate are the people who grab the fill handle and drag, right? Because it starts going too far. And then I show how to double click the fill handle, right? So that's basically the trick, double click the fill handle. But then I talk about the first lady that I did this for in our marketing department back in Akron, Ohio, where I worked. She had been typing for over an hour, right? Typing the names. And only, I'd gotten through 1/10 of the data set. And I came down and gave her the formula. And I walked back up to the accounting department. I knew that I had saved her a whole day's worth of work. But I barely got back up to the accounting department. And I realized that this lady had gone in, right click, and delete. And of course, I left live formulas out there. So now everything is gone, right? So we talk about how to undo and then how to convert formulas to values. And there's so many different ways to do that. I'm Control C, Alt ESV. There's like 11 different ways. But I was in a tiny little town in Indiana, about an hour south of Indianapolis, at the home of Cummins Engine. And there was a guy named Dave Rosenfeld in the first row. And Dave stops me and wins the 50-cent Excel master pin with this weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. He says, I can change those formulas to values without ever copying the data. I'm like, what? Right? And he proceeds to give me these instructions. He says, select the data, which I just did, and go to the right edge of the data. When you get to the right edge of the data, the mouse pointer changes to this four-headed arrow, and you're going to hold down the right mouse button for the rest of the trick. Don't let go of the right mouse button. He says, just drag it off to the right somewhere, but don't let go. And then drag it back to where you started. So right click, drag right, drag left, let go. And oh my God, this menu popped up. I've been using Excel for 20 years, and I've never seen this menu pop up until I'm in tiny little Columbus, Indiana, and some guy here in the front row named Dave has accidentally discovered this trick. Like, how would you ever accidentally right-click, drag right, drag left, let go? Now, it turns out, I asked the people at Microsoft, this is called the alternate drag and drop menu. And what we need here is copy here as values only to convert those formulas to values, right? And it's anytime that you right drag, that menu pops out, the alternate drag and drop menu. And you know what? I always kind of joke, like, you know, how would you ever find this in Excel help? Do you go look for the right-click, drag right, drag left menu? All right, so that was my one of my favorite tricks of all time from Columbus, Indiana. Dave in Columbus, Indiana. All right, this next one came from row 6, right-hand side of the room in Kent, Ohio, Kent State University at the Mionsky Accounting Conference. And I feel so bad I never got the lady's name. I was back there 15 years later, and they had 100 people. And I'm like, all right, who was the person who was here 15 years ago? Didn't show up again. All right, we all know fill handle tricks, right? Easy. January, grab the fill handle drag, you're gonna get February, March, April, May. Works with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, works with abbreviations. You know, I was worried about this seminar today because I'm usually not awake at this point. And so I actually started doing the seminar last night in my sleep. It was 3 a.m. and I started doing this seminar in my sleep. And I actually had to wake up and start writing ideas down. But when I got to this very trick, I grabbed Jan, I typed in Jan, I grabbed the fill handle, dragged, and I got Jan, Marcia, Cindy, Bobby, Greg, and Peter. I guess the Brady Bunch must have been on TV. All right, good. That still works. All right. Excel knows how to fill all of these things, but the most frustrating one is that the number 1, for some reason, they can't figure out that after 1 comes 2, 3, 4, and you just get 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And this was the point in the seminar where I would generally show people that you had to type in the 1 and the 2 and select them both. All right. And it's a big room, it's a big auditorium. And from the right-hand side, some lady raises her hand. She's like, oh, no, you can do that. What? She's like, yeah, it's the control key. You have to hold down the control key. So if you just select the 1 and hold down the control key, for some weird reason, Excel does the opposite thing of what it normally does, and it will count instead of copy. You know, so now it's weird. I now have a collection of weird ways to make the 1 work. Someone else along the way gave me this one. Select the 1 and the blank cell to the right of the 1, and then drag the whole thing. And that also causes it to go to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But definitely control is the one that I like the most. If you have any word followed by a number, word space number, that'll work. And this one didn't come from Kent, but it's one that used to drive me. I used to have to do 5-year projections by quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and then bump the year up. And I would always try and do this, and it would never work. It would always just give me Q1 of each year. And I would complain about this, and someone in the audience said, oh no, you were super close. Just take that Q1 and make it be 1Q. And when you do that, amazingly, Excel goes 2, 3, 4, and then they bump the year from 2022 up to 2023. Right, so I was that close all of those years, almost had it, but 1Q. All right, next up,
Bill, doesn't it amaze you, Bill, that somebody actually built logic into the program to do it in completely the opposite way that you would have expected?
Absolutely, right, yeah. And like, why? Why does that work? And does it work with anything else? Like, what if I would have done 1S space 2022? Is it the 1 along the left-hand side that makes it work? No, it's a 1Q. It only works with Q. If you're in some other country where quarter doesn't start with Q, too bad. Microsoft doesn't care about you. I don't know. All right, this one, filter by selection. And this actually came both from Deborah Dalgleish and myself within a couple of days. And I've learned that anytime that happens, it probably came from a guy named Mordecai who lives in Long Island, right? Mordecai is apparently fan of both of us. He passes the tricks on to both. So if you see Deborah and I come up with the same trick within the same week, it probably came from Mordecai. I have another trick here from Mordecai later on. I'm a big fan of filter. I love filters, but I loved filters back in Excel 97 when they were easy. It was simple. It was just data, filter, and then you open this and you just chose the customer you want. Life was simple. And they added uncheck select all and then just click the one that you want. I remember the day when they added those 2 extra clicks, and it was one of those Microsoft dog and pony shows. We were all on the call, or maybe even live in person at the summit. I don't remember which. And our favorite PowerPoint person, Echo Swinford, was in the room. And those 2 clicks, Echo went nuclear. How about those 2 extra clicks? I was afraid of Echo for years after that event. But it's a good point, because if you have 500 million people who are filtering over and over and over again, those 2 extra clicks actually matter. But I don't care about those 2 extra clicks now, because thanks to this trick, we can filter very easily, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the quick access toolbar, right click, customize quick access toolbar. They start off with the popular commands. This definitely is not popular. No one knows it's there. We're going to go to all commands. And we're going to go back to the old days when filters weren't called filters, they were called Autofilter. And if we find the Autofilter here, actually, it'll be faster if I use commands and out of the ribbon. Find Autofilter right there. Take the Autofilter, add that to the quick access toolbar. It's already there for me, right? And now this duplicates what we had in Microsoft Access, where you could filter by selection. So if I want to see all of Fintega financial modeling, I just choose any one cell. Notice the filter dropdowns are not on yet. And then I come up here and click Autofilter, and it filters to whatever the current cell is. If I just need the widget sales, I choose widget and then filter by selection. A really, really fast way to go. All right, so filter by selection using the Autofilter. Now, hey, the bad news here, for those of you who use Control-T tables, that icon doesn't work in Control-T tables. You have to right-click, filter by selected cells value, which is a super big hassle compared to how easy the Autofilter is. All right, so that was one trick. I was showing this trick in Fort Wayne, and I love this group in Fort Wayne. They had me there 2 years in a row. I don't remember the exact years. In the first year, right at this point, some guy stops me, and he wins the prize that day. He says, look, we have this great trick that we use in our department. He says, go down to the blank row just below your data and type total visible. Now, that doesn't need to be there. That's not the important part, but it's telling us what it's doing. He says, then go over to, let's say, your revenue column or any of the columns. And I'm going to press the AutoSum or Alt equals. And normally that gives us a sum function. But there's this bizarre behavior that if you're immediately in the first blank row below a filtered data set, so the data set has to be filtered, you have to have selected something from the filter, you're in the first blank row, they don't give you a sum function, they give you a subtotal function. And the beautiful thing about the subtotal function is it ignores all of the hidden rows. So that effectively tells us the total revenue for the visible cells. And if I would switch this then from widget to gadget or gizmo or something like that, then I get a new total. It's an ad hoc total, right? Made a big deal out of this, gave the guy the prize. 1 year later, I'm invited back. Show up, it's an 8:30 seminar, I show up at 7:30 to start setting up the equipment. Some guy walks in. He says, hey, you were here last year. I'm like, yes, I was. He says, I didn't come last year. I don't need to come to your seminar. I know everything there is to know about Excel, but I sent 5 of my people down, and one of them came in with the Excel master pin. I'm like, oh, the total visible guy. He says, yeah, the total visible guy. He says, look, that's not his trick. I'm his manager. That's my trick. I'm thinking to myself, what? Did you come here just to get the 50-cent prize? Is that really why you're here? He says, I don't care about your prize. He says, the guy only gave you half the trick, and I'm here to finish the trick. I'm like, well, this is good. I've been waiting a year, right? Tell me what the rest of the trick is. He says, the problem with this trick is that sometimes you have too many customers, and it's more than a page full of data. He says, so insert 2 new rows at the top, and then Control X. Don't cut, or don't copy. Make sure to Control X to cut, and then paste to the top. Mrs. Excel says hello to everybody. Paste to the top. And he says the beautiful thing about that is then if you select some combination of customers that are more than one screenful, you'll still have the totals at the top. All right, so there you go. The total visible trip from Fort Wayne. It's hard to get to Fort Wayne. There are no flights to go there. It's a long drive. I had to go there twice. I hope you appreciate that trick. The other place I only got to present here once was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which I can't spell to this day. Albuquerque was really cool. They gave me diet advice before I got there. They said, look, when you go to the restaurant and you order anything, they're going to ask you red or green. And they're talking about chilies. They're talking about the Hatch chilies that are in season. And you have to ask which are hotter, right? And he said, if you want to sound like a local, you say that you want Christmas, which is a mix of red or green. And sure enough, we tried that at the restaurant. They asked red or green, and I said Christmas. She said, oh, you must be from here. I said, no, but I was well trained. All right. The thing that I never knew about New Mexico is when New Mexico was formed, they decided that they were not going to be pro-business. They were pro-government. They tried to have a lot of government agencies come there. And it was really weird for me. I'd never seen this. The entire back 25% of the room was FBI agents. There was a ton of FBI agents there, all with badges, all with guns. And apparently the FBI is a massive user of Excel, and they knew a lot of tricks. They already knew this filter by selection thing, but they gave me one better, one that I had never seen. So this is from the FBI office in New Mexico. They say that frequently they're looking for outliers. And so what they'll do is they'll come down to the blank row just below the data, and they'll type in something like this, greater than 20,000, and then select that cell. And from that cell, they'll hit the auto filter, and then it filters all of the cells above for greater than $20,000, right? So they're a trick from the Albuquerque office of the FBI. All right, this one, I didn't get this on the road. I get this from a fellow MVP, but this one's brand new. I love this one. You know, I always talked about the little status bar down here that showed you the sum, count, average, min, max. It doesn't always show those, but you can right click and turn all of those on, right? And once you turn them on, they stay there forever. But what's really crazy is just recently, they gave us this crazy ability. If you hover, it says it's the average of selected cells, in parentheses, copy to clipboard. What? So if you click on the average, I just put the average on the clipboard, and then I can come up here and paste Control V, and it will copy the average right into that cell. All right, so you can now copy from the clipboard. All right, another trick that is not good for the table folks because this doesn't work with tables, but I'm a big fan of using subtotals, and I always show this in a trick. Long ago, up in Canada, I had 86 episodes on Tech TV with Leo Laporte, and you know, it was a great show, a great crowd, a great group of young people on that show who got me onto YouTube long before, you know, most people were on YouTube. Got me podcasting long before, but it was weird. We were on channel 133 when most TVs only went to channel 99, right? So it was a show that really couldn't be watched. But you know, 86 episodes, and somewhere around my 24th episode, I showed people how to add subtotals in, right? So if I need a subtotal for each customer, data subtotal at each change in customer, use the sum function, choose which ones you want, and click OK, right? And this trick was the only trick that actually generated viewer mail. This was the only one where someone wrote into the show and said, oh my God, I just saw MrExcel's trick last night. They say, my job is to go into work and total last night's orders. And I add a total after every single customer, every single day. It takes me from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I've been doing that for 2 years. I saw his trick, and I came in this morning, and it was done in a minute. She says, this is the most amazing thing. And she says, the awesome thing is, I'm the only person at work who watches this show, right? So everyone thinks it's a 2-hour job. And now she can do it in a minute. She's like, I've got an hour and 59 minutes free every single day. I'm like, oh, that's great. That's good. Good for you. All right. So the automatic subtotals, you know, we can collapse these down. I was in Springfield, Missouri. A guy named Derek back in row 6. I'm friends with Derek today. Derek from row 6. He raises his hand and he says, all right, your subtotals are in there alphabetically. He says, that's not how anyone wants to see this. How do you get the largest customer to the top? And I know this is going to be a big pain to do because if I try and copy that data to another sheet, it's not going to work. I'm going to have to do paste or go to special visible cells only. You know, it's a big, long hassle. And he says, yeah, no, it's really easy. You won't believe it. They programmed this in. And I still to this day cannot believe that someone at Microsoft went in and did the engineering hours to make this work. This was back in 1997. So check this out. ABC stores must be totaling up everything from row 5 to row 8, and then the totals are in 9. Down here, Walmart total is totaling everything from row 529 to row 593, and the Walmart totals at the bottom. Walmart's my largest customer in this data set. And amazingly, if I just come here to the revenue column and sort descending, Walmart comes flying to the top, but it doesn't come to row 5. It comes to row 70. And what just happened is they took all of the Walmart detail records and the Walmart total as one big chunk of data and sorted that whole thing to the top. And then the General Motors total, and then the Exxon total, and all of the detail records came along with them, not sorted within, right there in the exact same sequence they were. So that whole group was sorted to the top. To this day, I still can't believe, like, this should be a national holiday, an international holiday. Someone at Microsoft showed up and did the right thing. How crazy is that? All right, so that trick from Derek.
Hey, Bill, before you move on to another one, Tom had asked in the chat. I think he missed the quick on how to do the copy paste of the summary stats. Can you just show that again real quick?
Yeah. So you just select any series of cells, and that causes the status bar to show up. And then whatever you want. Let's say I want the minimum. I'm going to left click it, and that puts it on the clipboard, and then just come up here and paste. Now, that's a relatively new trick. It's probably only rolled out to 50% of insiders right now. I don't know. I mean, it might just be Microsoft 365. I'm not sure how far it's rolled out.
I see Pranam's tested it. I tested on mine, and it's working on mine. It works on my machine, but then of course I got Office 365 on beta as well. So if you do have it, tell us what your Office version actually is. We'd be curious to know if you want to throw that into the chat. So Win saying not on semi-annual, so it does sound like it's an Office 365 thing. So
okay,
there you go.
Right. It's a cool little trick.
For sure, yeah.
All right, this next one. Oh my God, this is so crazy. When I worked for 13 years in an office, right? It was great. And then I started MrExcel. And the worst thing about being MrExcel is you're working out of your house and there's no one to talk to. So I joined the Chamber of Commerce just because, there's 135 other people who basically have no friends, right? And we would get together for a breakfast once a week just to have someone to talk to about the game. And the lady from the Chamber of Commerce calls me up and says, hey, we're in trouble. We have a lunchbox seminar this week and our guy just canceled. He can't talk. Can you show up on Thursday for an hour? And, yeah, I said, give me the address, right? So I show up and holy smokes, I am not in the right audience at all. I mean, this is the Portage Lake Senior Center. These people were there to hear about reverse mortgages, and I'm going to talk about Excel. And actually, they weren't there to hear about reverse mortgages. They were there for lunch. But the deal is you got to listen to someone for 45 minutes, and then you get lunch for free, right? So this is like, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. I didn't make that offer that day that someone in this room is going to show me up. My goal was just let's keep people awake. So again, talking about subtotals, I'm trying to copy these subtotals to another spot, and of course it doesn't work. If I just do Control-C and then Control-N for new and Control-V to paste, it brings all of the records instead of just the records I want. And I have this great thing. I love this trick in the book because it's a good page and a half of really hard things. Control-G for go to, click the special button, click visible cells only, and then okay. And then when you do the Control-C, it'll copy the whole bit, right? So I'm going through this thing. I swear, this lady, she had to be 82, front row, center, row 1. She's super annoyed with me. She's like, why are you going through all those steps? Why are you doing all that? What do you mean, why am I doing that? It's Alt semicolon, she says. I never heard this trick. If you want to do visible cells only, select the data, Alt semicolon. What? How, ma'am, how did you find this? We do it all the time. You do it all the time. Where? At Bridge Club? Where are you doing this all the time? So it's under Home, Find and Select, Go to Special. None of these have shortcut keys. None of them, except for visible cells only. And apparently, you can find it up here in the quick access toolbar, select visible cells, Alt semicolon. So good for her. That's the day that I realized it does not matter where I'm at. Someone in that room has done something or knows something about Excel that I don't know, right? So I always make the offer that someone today is going to show me up. All right, this next one, and Chandu covered this one with me before, so you might have already seen this trick. This is from Dan in Philadelphia. This is the one guy that I definitely would love to meet again. It was a half-day seminar, so I spent 3.5 hours with Dan. I'm talking about pivot tables, and I think I was probably doing this trick where I took the revenue field and dragged it twice to the values area, and then showed, also here, this is Diane from Atlanta. I used to get into value field settings. I go to pivot table, analyze, and go to field settings. Diane stopped me. She's like, hey, you don't have to do that. Just double click the heading, takes you right in. I'm like, oh, isn't that an awesome little trick that'll save me one click every pivot table for the rest of my life. And then did show values as percentage of the column total. Click OK. All right. And then the next thing I show is the top 10. The top 10. And you'll notice my largest customer down here, Walmart, 869,000 out of 6.7 million, 12.96%. And I talk about how I don't like the top 10 because under value filters, top 10, this is awesome. It could be top or bottom. Doesn't have to be 10. It could be 5. It could be 50. It could be 12. Even the top 80%, right? So it's super flexible. But what I don't like about this is that Walmart, who used to be 13% of the total, 12.9% of the total, is now 24% of this smaller number. It says grand total, but it's really not. It's just the total of the things we can see. Oh, in Microsoft, it was January 30th, 2007 that this got grayed out. Under subtotals, include filtered items and totals. If they would just turn that back on, my life would be so much simpler. That was 2007. It's been 15 years. Every day I come into Excel, I check to see if this got turned back on. I'm starting to think the person who's going to turn this back on, they probably left the Excel team. They might be working for Word or PowerPoint. I don't know, right? And the day that I was talking about this in Philadelphia, this young man named Dan, he was probably about 30 years old at the time. It was probably 15 years ago. I don't know. Dan stops me. He says, hey, no, you can do that. He says, the problem is you're trying to use those new school pivot table filters. You need to go old school. You need to go back to the regular filters. Never heard this trick. What are you talking about, Dan? And in fact, I come here to the data tab, and sure enough, you are not allowed to filter this data set. If you're anywhere inside of a pivot table, that filter is grayed out completely against the law. Not allowed to use it. But here's the crazy thing. Let me remove these subtotals here just so I can talk about filter for a second. When I filter a data set, I choose any one cell, I click filter. Some people choose the whole data set and click filter. I don't know why, but Dan had discovered this weird trick that you can go to the very last heading cell, go one cell to the right. And now I've started calling this the magic cell. From the magic cell, for some weird reason, you can click the filter and it filters the adjacent data set. It doesn't filter the magic cell, it just filters all the stuff to the left. What a weird trick. No one cares about this trick. Like, this is not a useful trick. Even at your accounting Christmas party, no one cares about this trick. But Dan from Philadelphia realized that there's someone on the Excel team, and I don't know who this is. I would love to find out who this person is who programmed this, who's kind of being a jerk, right? Because when I click inside the pivot table, they gray it out. But if I click out here anywhere into the nothingness, I'm more than welcome to filter that nothingness. Grayed out, not grayed out. Grayed out, not grayed out. I don't know who this is, who's graying this out, but I know one thing about them. They never met Dan in Philadelphia because Dan goes to the magic cell, right? And the person on the Excel team doesn't realize that this is the valid entry point for filtering the data to the left. And they forget to gray it out. And so from the magic cell, I can add a filter drop down here and a filter drop down there. Right? That's impossible. You're not allowed to do this. I'm breaking every rule in the book. And this filter here offers number filters top 10, but it's different. It's not the same top 10 that's in the pivot table. I'm actually going to ask for 6 because that filter sees the 6.7 million as the largest item in the column. My Walmart is back to 12.96%. The grand total is where it's supposed to be, and life is great Dan in Philadelphia. Now look, I've done this seminar 35 years, or 35 times a year times 17 years, 50 to 100 people every time. There's only been 2 people who ever knew this trick. Only 2. Dan in Philadelphia. 10 years later, I'm in Cincinnati at the University of Cincinnati. It was a really weird room, only 32 people in the room, deep, 8 rows deep, 4 people per row. And there's a guy, second from the left on the back row. And this guy, he wins the first Excel master pin like in 7 minutes, fastest anyone's ever done it. The record is 8 prizes in one day to the entire room. That was in Oklahoma City. And sometimes, you know, if I get a sense that we could hit that 8, I'll tell people what the record is and that you're on track to make the record. This guy in the back row, he was on track to break the record himself. So of course, I knew the first time that he gave me a trick. I said, "Oh, hey, you know, what's your name?" And I always make a joke. I say, "Well, if you're looking for one of these, just wait till about 7 o'clock tonight and go out to eBay where this guy will be selling it." Right? So when we got to pivot tables, this guy in the back row, he raises his hand. He knows this trick long before I even get to it. His name is Dan. And I'm aging the first Dan, and it's got to be the same guy. I'm like, oh my God, I finally found Dan. Dan from Philadelphia, Dan from Cincinnati. They're 800 miles apart. I said, Dan, were you in Philadelphia? Were you in my seminar in Philadelphia? He's like, I've never been to Philadelphia. What are the odds? How can there be 2 people in the world who knows this trick, both named Dan? It had to be the same guy. So I have a picture with the new Dan, but I don't know if he's the old Dan or not. All right, next up. How are we doing on time? Yeah, great.
We're good, Bill. But I got a question that's come in here, which is not related to the stuff that you've shown yet, but I think it would be entertaining to get your perspective on this one. So a comment from Scott here says, I've used Windows versions of Excel for decades, and I've been struggling with Mac version for a couple of years now. Should I just go back to Windows?
I used to make so much fun of the Mac version of Excel. You know, like it was some weird version of Excel, but then they came out with Excel Online. And all of a sudden the Mac version is really close to the real Excel. You know, just go use Excel Online for a while, and then that Mac version will seem almost perfect to you.
Yeah, there's still definitely some things that are missing from Mac Excel, but they are doing better at catching up in a lot of places, I'd say. But I just say my sort of one comment on that one is if you're looking to work with Power Query or Power Pivot, unfortunately the Mac is dead to you. So at that point, then yeah, you've got the comment there from Ron. I mean, dual boot to Windows or use a VM to install the Windows version on a Mac is definitely the way to go, and that way you got the best of both worlds if you prefer the Mac UI. So
and the best video on Excel Online and the current state of Excel Online is Wynn's video, right? He talks about the things that is missing, but also the things that Excel Online is doing that we don't have in Excel for Windows. I learned a lot of great things from your video, Wynn. I go back to it actually a lot. All right, here's another pivot table one. I was in St. Louis on my way to the seminar, and my phone rings. It's a guy from Mexico. Hey, he says, I have a pivot table. I need to roll this up to weeks, right? So I'm driving down I-70, trying to picture this dialog box grouping seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, quarters, years. There's no week here. I'm like, I don't think you can do it. All right, but here's the amazing thing. You can do it. Come here to Pivot Table Analyze, go to Group Field, and it always starts out with months. And when it starts out with months, you don't notice that down here in the lower right-hand corner, grayed out is number of days. And to use number of days, what you have to do is select days, unchoose months. When days is selected, and only days is selected, you can then roll this up to 7-day periods, or 14-day periods, or 28-day periods, or whatever you might need, and get weekly data in a pivot table. Sylvia, who's now the star of Excel TV, Sylvia from Santa Monica showed up in my seminar in Akron, Ohio. She had a copy of my book, Pivot Table Data Crunching. I'm like, oh, look at that. She must want an autograph. That wasn't why Sylvia was there. Sylvia waited patiently all day till I got to pivot tables, and we built a pivot table that something like this. She's like, okay, now look, I got a question. I need you to make this pivot table for every single customer in your database. Like, oh, well, that's going to be a macro. And she's like, I knew it. Sylvia, what are you talking about? It's not in your book. I read your whole book. You don't know this trick. Sylvia, calm down. What trick? There's all kinds of tricks I don't know. And she shows me how to take whatever field customer. In this case, I'm going to do it with sector just because I don't want to add a whole bunch of sheets to this workbook. Take sector up to the filter area, and then on the Analyze tab, far left-hand side, don't go to Options, go to the tiny little drop-down next to Options. There's something there called Show Report Filter Pages. I swear I tried to do this and it was grayed out, probably because I didn't have something up in the filter area. And it says Show All Pages of Sector. And right now I'm about to create 8 copies of this pivot table, 1 on each worksheet. So there's the communication sector, energy sector, financial, healthcare, manufacturing, retail. A great little trick hidden there, not in the options button, but the little drop down next to the options button. So thanks to Sylvia from Santa Monica. Every time I see her, she reminds me that that is her trick, and I know that's her trick. This one, Rob Colley, who was formerly on the Excel team and now Power Pivot Pro or P3 Adaptive or whatever his name is. And he and I are having a great time talking about Excel, and I have all these conspiracy theories. You know, that Excel team, they did this because. And Rob's like, no, there was a really good reason why we did that. I was like, my story sounds better. And Rob then was talking about Power Pivot, and he said the only sentence, the whole lunch that made no sense to me. He says, you know, Bill, our internal customers are going to be really unhappy that GetPivotData is not working. I'm like, wait a second. People everywhere will rejoice if GetPivotData is not working. They'll be thrilled with that. He says, oh, no, you're talking about the people outside of Microsoft. I'm talking about the accountants inside. They love GetPivotData. And I'm like, what? Everyone always asks me how to turn GetPivotData off. And here, Rob is talking about people who are using GetPivotData on purpose. And so he walked me through an example, which would take me too long to talk about. But you know, we have a pivot table here with actual and plan, and then it puts January total in. And what we want to see is actual for all the months. Like in this case, we'd have actual for January, February, and plan for the rest of the year. That was the pivot table. And that's hard to do. But the people at Microsoft, specifically Max, for those of you, he was an Excel project manager for a while. Max discovered that what you could do is you could put GetPivotData into just a regular report like this. But then the problem with GetPivotData and why it doesn't copy well is that it's all hard-coded to say the store is Baybrook, the month is January, the type is actual. And you know, Rob says that what you have to do is you have to parameterize GetPivotData. You have to, instead of Baybrook, go click on a cell that says Baybrook, and I'll press F4 1, 2, 3 times. Instead of month January, click on a cell that says January, and there I'll press Excel or F4 twice, and then type actual will be E4 right there, F4 twice. All right, and then you get that formula that you can now copy, and I'm going to paste special formulas, that way I don't screw up the formatting, and paste special formulas. Actually, that was an F4. I used an F4 right there to repeat the last command, paste special formulas. All right, and so an actual use for GetPivotData. Now, hey, you got to be careful if you do this. If they build a new store, you need to make sure to update your report. So you should have a check down here that the grand total is there. But that was a great day having Rob tell me what GetPivotData, which has been annoying people since Excel 2002, is actually used for. All right, here's a good one. And actually, all of your folks can already know this because this is a power pivot. This is a data model thing. One of the questions I get a lot is I need to know how many customers are in the communication sector. So I can look here and see that there's 3 customers in communications, 2 in energy, 4 in financial. There are 11 calculations. Sum, count, average, max, min, product. We know those because we can see those without scrolling. Beyond that, count numbers, standard deviation P, variance, and variance P. And if we take customer over here to the pivot table itself, it says that it's giving us a count of customer, but it's not. That's not really a count of customer. That's how many invoices. Because we know there were 3 customers in communications, 2 in energy, 4 in financial. And so the trick to this is to come to the pivot table, insert pivot table, add this data to the data model. That checkbox right there allows you to solve this problem. Click OK. And I'll build the exact same report with sector down the left-hand side, customer in the values area, and then double click on the heading, sum, count, average, max, min. Product is gone, but at the very bottom, they give us distinct count right? So you can get an actual distinct count there just by using the data model. That's, you know, probably the cheapest reason to use the data model, but one of my favorites. All right.
Hey, Bill, do you have a trick to show median?
No. You know, Juan Pablo Gonzalez. Remember Juan Pablo?
Yeah.
Who was an MVP way back. He actually, I had a customer who needed medians. He wrote his own VBA median. Does DAX have median? Is there a?
I
Yeah.
thought it did, but it didn't. Like there's one of them that's missing, either median or mode. One of them is not
Right.
there.
Yeah.
I thought DAX had median, but I can see Win typing furiously, so I bet you he's probably looking it up right now.
Right, yeah.
So,
Let's see who has the first YouTube video with median and a pivot table.
but
All
I
right.
mean, certainly I would say I would reach the DAX for that. If it's not
Right.
programmed in, I'm sure you could build it. You just got to work out the mathematics behind it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
right. Yeah, that's cool. All right, really simple ones. Really, really simple. You know, we all know the very first formula that almost everyone creates in Excel is the AutoSum, or alt equals, right? And you put your total there, copy it across. You can also put your total there and copy it down. And I don't know who was insane enough to think that this would work. Like, why would anyone even try this? If you choose all of your numbers plus the extra row plus the extra column like that, and then hit the AutoSum, it puts the totals all the way around. Right? Like, who would have thought that would work? Who was the first person who said, "Oh yeah, let's try that"? But now that you see it, it's like, well, yeah, why wouldn't it work? You know, you're basically filling all of the blank cells with an AutoSum just in one fell swoop. Fast way to go. I used to show this trick, although the lower right-hand corner isn't going to work, so I'm not sure it's even a good trick anymore. Is there an auto average? Well, the AutoSum button has a little drop down. If you need average, count, max, or min, you can just choose that from the list. All right, that number is not correct though, so that's a bad trick. Let's forget about that trick. And this one from General Electric, this goes back to the days. I don't know. This is a good question here. When I was in second grade, we used to use something called a Ditto mark, right? So if you wanted to have the word from the line above, you could just put a little Ditto in it. That meant copy that down. There's a control Ditto in Excel. So I'm going to do the sum function here. And they said, we always need the sum and then average. But if I would copy the sum function down, you see the range is wrong, right? So these guys at General Electric in Cleveland, they would do control in the quotation mark, control Ditto, which brings the exact same formula down and leaves it in edit mode. And then from there, it would be home. Whoops, sorry. I screwed up the trick. Control Ditto, F2 to go to edit mode, home, right, and then type average, and then delete, delete, delete. And they swear that it's faster, right? So there we are. I don't know, the control Ditto trick. Now this is a great one. I'm reaching over here to the other computer where I have my plans for today. I'm going to Control C to copy that. So here, Control C, right? So on my other computer, I've just copied that data. And then over here on this computer, I'm going to hold down the Windows key and press V. And that copy that I just did over there is now available on this computer. I used to have a file that would pass stuff back and forth between this computer and that computer just to do what I just did. Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. Windows key V will let you copy from the other computer. I'm signed in there and here on the same network. I don't know how it works. It's pretty wild. All right, our old friend Bob Umless. This was at the Model Off Championships in New York City. You know, Bob is always full of tricks. He grabs my laptop and he says, all right, double space this data. I'm like, what? Yeah, double space the data. Why would I have to do that? I don't know. Your manager wants you to double space the data. Okay. So we know the control trick. Hold down the control key, put in the numbers 1 through 7. Copy those numbers 1 through 7 and paste them just below like that. And actually let's triple space. So I'm going to paste it twice. Then go to that column you just added and data A to Z or A to Z, and you've effectively triple spaced the data. It's one of those Bob Umless tricks that is amazing, but not necessarily useful in a lot of cases. But I'm passing that one along to you. I had Bob put that, record that on my YouTube channel. Here's another one. This was this was one of the people I was really happy to have a chance to meet. If anyone has taken a course in financial modeling in college, your textbook was written by Simon Benninga. And one year I was a judge in Model Off, and Simon was also a judge. What a gentleman, what a nice guy, just super nice. And he showed this trick back here on the data tab under what if analysis, data table, a 2 variable data table, something we do all the time. But Simon talked about in elementary school playing a game of penny pitching, where they were basically gambling, and every time we press F9 here, it will recalculate. And you can have a stock analyst who all of a sudden has a good year, like that one who finished way up. He says, but just because they had a good year this year doesn't mean that they have a good year every year. And I wiped out the formulas. That's terrible. All right, so we're just gonna put it equal max here of win streak right here. I had some great formulas across the top, and in getting ready for this, I screwed it up. I'm going to create a data table from the blank cell. Usually the top left corner cell is the most important table because there's RAND in here under data, what if analysis, data table, and then the column inputs, I'll just choose any blank cell anywhere on the sheet, and it will run 30 years of a stock analyst career like that. Great little trick from Simon Benninga. A couple years later, he came down with cancer and has passed away. So thanks to Simon for that trick. Most of my seminars were in the Eastern United States, somewhere I could fly, do the seminar, 4:30, get in a cab and make it home that night. But a couple of times we were invited to Lucerne, Switzerland. Mary Ellen all of a sudden had a fascinating interest in Excel. Lucerne, she's like, oh yeah, I gotta go. I gotta come watch your Excel seminar, right? And I met a guy there named Eckhard Pfeiffer, Dr. Pfeiffer, who was a great aficionado of Excel formulas. They used arrays. So here I have a yellow array that is 10 rows by 1 column, blue array, 1 row by 4 columns. If I would do math with this times that or plus that, Excel in memory is going to say, oh, look, we got 10 rows, we got 4 columns. What we have to do is return an array of 40 cells like that, right? And now that dynamic arrays are actually a thing, and they are far more common. I always think about this great trick from Dr. Pfeiffer. All right, these are silly, but they're some of my favorites. There are a whole bunch of shapes here, right? And one of the shapes I'll frequently create is the little lightning bolt. It starts out as blue, and I'll change it to yellow, and then right click and set as default shape. That's just to get it as yellow. But back here on shape format, the weirdest little thing hidden in the weirdest spot, I go up to that lightning bolt, which is at the top because it was recently used, and I right click and say lock drawing mode. And when I've locked drawing mode, I can now create lightning bolts super fast. Every click creates a brand new lightning bolt like that. Not useful for anything, just a great way to create a bunch of lightning bolts all at once. If you need lightning bolts, you can also do it with smiley faces or whatever. All right, now I got a whole bunch of shapes. I had a client, I'd done some training for him, and they were in Uniontown, Ohio. They had a workbook that they used every single day. This workbook had 3 shapes on it. And unbeknownst to them, every single day, someone in the company was copying that and pasting it. Like copying from here and pasting to there. And every single day they added 3 more shapes. Slowly and very definitely and inadvertently. By the time they called me, they had over 1,400 shapes on that sheet. And if you would try and scroll, it would take minutes for each scroll because Excel had to redraw the 1,400 shapes. It was completely impossible to use. And this started happening to them just slowly. Like they had 3 shapes, and then a week later they had 15 shapes. And that wasn't bad. But somewhere between 15 shapes and 1,400 shapes, it became unusable. Out here on the Home tab, Find and Select, there's this awesome thing called a selection pane. And as soon as I clicked Hide All of a sudden, everything came back, right? And then I could start going through and attacking them and deleting them. Also on the same tab, under Select Objects, this is great for getting rid of all those little check icons that my bank loves to put in the data that I download. Just draw a big box around it. You can select all those items at once and kill them all like that. You know, I always show Alt-Enter as a fast way to wrap text. Alt-Enter one.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, before you run off on that one, can you just go back to your shape thing for a second? Because I actually have a question for you. I was just dealing with this today, and I'm curious if you've got a trick for this.
Okay.
I had a shape that was somewhere on my worksheet. It was a slicer that I lost somehow. Okay, must have inserted rows or whatever else. I could not figure out how, even using the selection pane, to actually get to where that slicer was. I wanted to select it and be able to see it, but when I selected it, it didn't move my my focus on the worksheet or anything like that. So let's say that it's off down in column XYZ row 950,000.
Right.
I'm up in the top left-hand corner, and I'm trying to figure out how can I actually go to that shape wherever it is. Couldn't figure out a way. You know what?
It selected it, but it doesn't take me there, does it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So now the big question. There's a great keyboard shortcut in Excel called Control Backspace, which brings the selection into view. And I know that works. I know that works for a cell. Like Control Backspace will bring the selected cell back into view. So the question is, can we click on the lightning bolt? Oh man, I'm gonna be so excited. This will be a trick from Ken. If this works.
Not like I figured out how to do it.
Control Backspace does not work. Oh, Microsoft, you let us down.
I mean, the good news was the delete key worked, so at least I could actually recreate it somewhere where I knew where it was. But it seems like there should be a go-to somewhere that can put it in focus, right?
Yeah, I mean, in VBA you could do print selection dot left.
Yeah, it was easier to press delete.
That's going to give you pixels or something, right? It's just insane.
Yeah.
All right, great question.
Just curious.
Great question, or good question. Which one is it? Good question. That means we're never going to fix that.
I think that was a great question. Good question means it will get fixed. So I think this probably goes in the realm of great.
Got it. Alt enter, great in one cell. Then I ran into someone who freaking alt entered in every single cell. Like every little cell is Word. This is so crazy. Why does this work? If I go to data, text to columns, delimited, in step 2, click in other, and then right there, it's Control J. Control J? What? Control J is the alt enter. It works in the find, it works in replace, and it works here in text to columns. Control J. I went Googling for this, and I found a 1982 IBM user manual where there's 50 codes on a page, and Control J was there as a line feed. None of the other codes on that page work. Why did this get programmed in? No earthly idea. We sort data all the time. We always sort data, but I need to sort columns. I need to move sector to the first, and then region, and then customer, and then product, and then I want date, and then quantity, and revenue, cost of goods sold, and profit. So an awesome trick that a lot of people don't realize is here. If we sort under options, there's an option to sort left to right. When you sort left to right, you can choose the top row and very quickly rearrange those columns. Weird thing. F4 key will, of course, add dollar signs in if you're in edit mode, but the F4 key, how to get a second job. F4 is used to repeat the last thing you did. So right now, I need to delete this column, which for me is Alt-EDC, Alt-EDC, Enter, 4 keystrokes. But I just did that. That's the last thing I did. And now I would just come over here and press F4, right arrow key, F4, right arrow key, F4. All right, so anytime I have to do a bunch of whatever, I do it once with the whole keyboard shortcut and then use F4 to go through it. Here's another one from Mordecai. In the old days, we had these functions that would do from decimal to binary to octal to hex. But then they gave us base, which allows us to do, so we take a number and convert it to base 16, which is hexadecimal, or convert it back from base 16. But Mordecai realized one of the most useful things for base is I have a number 560 and I need to put some leading zeros in front of it. So he uses the base function, changes it to base 10, right here, sorry, base 10. But then the optional third argument is what's the length supposed to be? So that forces there to be several leading zeros in front like that. VLOOKUP, I'm a big VLOOKUP fan, but whether you're doing index and match or VLOOKUP, there was no way to search from the bottom. There was a way, but it was super hard. I did one video about that on YouTube 7 years ago for a horse farm in England. And they were so happy with that formula. They said, tell you what, the next horse that gets born here, we're going to name MrExcel. So you're always Googling yourself. These folks, that horse started a race, and when you would Google MrExcel, I would show up in the horse racing results. I thought the horse finally retired, and it goes back to VLOOKUP. So of course, XLOOKUP now has the ability to search last to first. This is a great one. All right, here's my last trick. I used to have to produce reports for the VP of sales, and a lot of people are out there producing reports for the CFO. And when you have bad financial news, that's just, you don't want to be the person to deliver that, right? So Excel has something to save you. If this is your income statement, not some happy news, just come out here to column D and use this function, the Roman function. Right, double click to copy that down, and then of course hide column C. Right, and then you can just drop that on the CFO's desk and run. Right. And by the way, if you're the CFO, if you get this in Excel 2013, they finally added the counter function. If someone gives you a financial statement in Roman numerals, you use the Arabic function to go back to the original. Why do we need Roman numerals in Excel? There's not many people like Steven Spielberg to put the copyright, the Vatican to figure out the next Pope name. Yeah.
Somebody has a spreadsheet, Bill, that actually plans out the next 6 Super Bowls.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, that would do it. Yeah. The NFL commissioner for the next Super Bowls.
Exactly. There you go.
There you go. All right. Those are some of the weird and wonderful things that I've learned on the road from lots of great people who showed up in my seminar, and they walked away with their 50-cent prize. And I walked away with these tricks. So, Ken, thanks for inviting me up.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I want you to go back to your base example for a second. I'll show you the way that I would have done that last one with the leading zeros, and this is probably the way that you would do it. Is I'd be going with equals text C21.
Yeah, right.
And then put in a quote, and then 6 zeros or whatever you want. I mean, that always was the way that I went. The base is kind of odd, but
it's definitely a weird. It's a weird one. It's but. Okay,
it's about oddities, right?
Right. And here's the weird thing, Ken. So we have 2 formulas now, right?
Yep.
And so how do you judge which formula is the best? It's which formula is the shortest. So equal length of the formula text of this versus yours, right? And you had to type all those zeros, and Mordecai just gets to put a 7 in. So if you're using that standard of the shortest formula, he's got you.
Fair enough. Although I will say I can type my text one faster than I can type the base one because I'd have to look up base. So in that case, I think text is faster. So
that's right. That's right.
And which one works all the time? Yeah, that's a good point as well. Hey, listen, Bill. We also had Antony wanted to show an alt equals trick as well. So okay. Antony, are you around that we can get you to maybe share your screen and?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
Let me share my screen.
All right, go for it. I think if you share, it'll just Bill. Is there anything else that you want to show before we? You're good. Okay, cool. Yeah. In that case, Antony, go for it. Share your screen and let's see what you got.
Okay, so I guess there are many ways to do that sum, but I have say 3 quarters here, 3 months in each quarter. I have this sum. Right, for the quarter, say Q1, Q2, Q3, and I need the total of all. Alt equal does the job.
You gotta be kidding me. So you selected everything from B through O, and then hit Alt equal, and it put it to the right.
Yeah. I'll do it again. So first of all, these are formulas, right? These are sums,
right, yeah.
And these are just run between. I just generated some data right now.
Right, yeah.
Right, and I'll do it again. So you select Alt equal.
That's a hot trick right there. That is one hot trick. Antony, right?
Yeah.
Antony, where are you from?
Toronto.
All right, Antony, you're gonna be famous for now.
This is not all. This is not all. Wait a second.
Well, there's more.
Wait a second. So I'll delete this column. If these columns are not, if we have no blanks, then you can just Alt equal from the.
I think I knew that one. I think I knew that one. But that other one, that first one is a hot trick. Wow. Anthony, if you shoot me a note, I will send you an Excel master pen for that one. That is a great trick.
Yeah. Bill, I got to ask you a question. How many seminars have you been to where you learned no new tricks?
Never. It
really
has never happened. Every single seminar, someone shows me something I've never seen before.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that we weren't the first to become living in infamy. So,
it's tougher
Anthony,
with Zoom.
thank you for that. That's awesome. Good job.
It's tougher with Zoom because you can't do the interaction. But yeah, that's a hot one. That's a hot trick right there. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, so Rob's saying the go-to special seems to jump onto the object, on the page but off screen. Yeah, that was exactly what I had, and it's like, why isn't there why doesn't it automatically scroll it back onto screen? But I don't know. It is what it is.
Someone who watches this on YouTube down in the YouTube comments will post how to do it. There has to be a way to do it. We just can't think of it.
Well, yeah, that's probably exactly it, right? So
yeah, we'll come back in a week and we'll check those comments. It'll be down there.
That'd be fantastic. We love having that.
Right. Yeah.
So, of course, way too late for me to actually use it because that's gone now. But that's okay. Maybe for next time.
The one phrase that we can never have in our vocabulary is "there's no way to do that in Excel," because as soon as you say that, you will have 100 people.
Oh no, I actually use that as a strategy, Bill. As soon as I say it can't be done, then somebody will post and tell me how it can. That's right. The learning method, right?
That's
if
good.
You know that there's no way, you throw that down, and somebody comes back and proves you wrong.
Yeah,
so.
That's good. Oh, that's great. Okay.
I'm just going through and checking the chat there. I don't think that there's any. Oh, hang on. It says Lou says press F2 and that'll zoom to the selected object in the pane.
Ooh.
Even if it's image. Oh, we got to try that now, right?
Yeah, right.
You got an example going there, Bill?
Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen again. Oops. So where were we? All right, so that's the item. Here, let's come down here. Lightning bolt. And what was it? F2? What does he say? F2? Oh my God! Holy shit!
Okay, well that's ridiculously simple, isn't it? How come I couldn't find that?
F2 is edit. F2 is not go to.
No, exactly. Well, there we go. Fantastic. Thank you, Lou. Appreciate that.
Lou, L-E-W?
No, L-O-U. And Pham, like Kong's last name.
Oh, cool. F2 to bring back. That is a great one.
There you go. Yeah, I guess you're right, Michelle. I mean, it sort of makes sense to edit the cell, except it's not a cell, it's an image. But at the same time, I mean, I'm going to try that now with a slicer and see if that works. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah. Same difference. Yeah, you're right. I mean, fair enough. Interesting. Go figure. Billions of little things. So now Bill's got 2 more tips to go in his next book.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
Hey, Bill, actually, I want to ask you this too. I'm really curious. Is there an official world record for who has actually written the most Excel books?
I think John Walkenbach was definitely in the lead for a while, and it'll take a while for me to catch up because he was writing for about 10 years before me. But there was someone, and I forget, they just posted on Twitter their 100th book. Not all Excel books, a lot of Office books.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm at 65. I'm pretty far behind I'm happy to be at 65. That's a lot of books.
Well, I say, I mean, after spending as long as I did for getting out my last book, dude, 65 books, an amazing achievement.
I actually, when I woke up this morning at 3:30, I was like, you know what? I could write a book today just for this class. Because what it is, I take one of the other books and just delete a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, I wish I had that luxury.
Right, yeah. But, it's one of those things that sounded like it was possible this morning, but isn't possible. So
there you go.
Yeah, right.
There you go. Awesome. Well, I got lots of comments coming in with thanks from people, and apparently they very much enjoyed it. Michelle's looking forward to sending the recording to her Excel buddy. That's awesome. The recording will be up on the SkillWave channel within about 48 hours. Takes me a little bit of time to produce it and get it posted, but I'll try and get that done tomorrow. If you aren't already subscribed to Skillwave's YouTube channel, you should, because it'll be you'll get notified then when it's up and running. But listen, Bill, I want to thank you for coming. Like I say, it's I can't believe that it's taken us this long to get you on here. That was a big oversight on my part. Fantastic stuff as always. Really enjoyed having you, and really looking forward to the days when we get to do this kind of stuff in person again. It's,
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. So,
all right, very good. Hey, thanks for the
awesome.
invite. Thanks to everyone.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right.